The towering pines stretched endlessly into the sky as the late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the winding dirt trail. The air smelled of damp earth and pine resin, a crisp scent that accompanied the sound of crunching leaves beneath hiking boots. Nathan, Emily, Chris, and Jason had been looking forward to this weekend for months. Their lives had become a monotonous cycle of work, responsibilities, and stress, so when Jason suggested a camping trip deep in the remote forests of Oregon, they jumped at the opportunity. "This is perfect," Chris said, adjusting his backpack. "No cell service, no deadlines. Just us and nature." Emily laughed. "And hopefully no bears. Or serial killers." "Serial killers?" Jason scoffed. "What is this, a horror movie?" Emily smirked. "Remote woods? Isolated campsite? A group of young, naive campers? Yeah, it's got all the right ingredients." Nathan rolled his eyes. "Come on, let's find a spot before it gets dark." After nearly 3 hours of hiking, they stumbled upon a small clearing nestled between towering evergreens. A nearby creek gurgled gently, and the forest was alive with the distant calls of birds and the occasional rustling of small creatures in the underbrush. They set up their tents, gathered firewood, and, as the night crept in, sat around a roaring fire with beers in hand. The conversation drifted between stories from their college days, ghost stories, and Jason's terrible attempts at impressions. But as the fire crackled and the night deepened, something changed. The surrounding forest, once full of chirping crickets and rustling leaves, fell eerily silent. Chris was the first to notice. He frowned, glancing around. "Hey, do you guys hear that?" "Hear what?" Emily asked. "That's just it. I don't hear anything. No birds. No bugs. It's like the whole forest just stopped." Nathan shrugged. "Maybe we scared everything off with our laughing." But then they heard it, soft, deliberate footsteps. Slow. Careful. Moving just beyond the firelight, circling their camp, Jason grabbed his flashlight and pointed it toward the trees. Nothing. Just shadows stretching between the trunks, probably an animal, Nathan said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Yeah," Jason agreed, though his grip on the flashlight tightened. After a few minutes of strained silence, they forced themselves to relax, dismissing it as paranoia. They put out the fire and retreated to their tents, but the forest was not done with them. The unseen intruder. Sometime around 3 a.m., Chris awoke with a start. A sound had pulled him from his sleep, something deep and guttural, labored breathing, just outside his tent. His body stiffened. The breath came slow, heavy, like someone was crouched just beyond the thin fabric separating him from the outside world. He clenched his fists, his heartbeat hammering in his ears. Was it an animal? A bear? No, this breathing was distinctly human. Deep, ragged, deliberate. The zipper of his tent began to move. Chris shot up, grabbing the knife he had kept beside him. With one swift motion, he yanked the tent flap open and slashed into the night air. Nothing. The cold night wind hit his face as he scanned the area. The other tents were still, their occupants undisturbed. But something was wrong. He could feel it. The next morning, Chris was pale and jittery as he recounted his experience. "No way," Jason said. "You probably dreamed it." Chris shook his head. "No. I was awake. And I swear to God, something was out there." "Maybe it was the wind," Emily suggested, though her voice wavered. Nathan, looking uneasy, stepped away from the camp and examined the ground. His stomach dropped. "Guys, you need to see this." The others joined him, and their blood ran cold. Surrounding their tents were footprints, deep, human footprints. But there were no prints leading to the campsite. No prints leading away. Just perfect, looping circles around where they had slept. Emily let out a shaky breath. What the hell? Jason exhaled sharply. All right. Nope. We're leaving. They packed up in record time, hiking back at a near-jogging pace. None of them spoke much. Every rustling leaf, every cracking twig sent jolts of fear through them. By the time they reached their car, relief washed over them like a flood. They drove in silence, not fully processing the fear they had left behind. The discovery a week later, Chris was scrolling through the news when something caught his eye. His breath caught in his throat. Oregon authorities warn hikers to avoid certain regions after a dangerous escape patient was spotted in the woods, the article read. Chris clicked on it, his stomach twisting. According to the report, a man had escaped from a nearby mental institution 2 weeks prior. He had been convicted of multiple violent crimes, known for stalking and attacking campers. Authorities had found evidence of his presence deep in the same forest where they had camped. Chris's fingers trembled as he grabbed his phone and called Nathan. Dude, check the news. Now. A pause. Then Nathan's voice, hushed and urgent. You don't think? Chris swallowed. The footprints. The breathing. The unzipping tent. It wasn't an animal. Silence. Then Nathan whispered, he was watching us. Their weekend escape had turned into something far more sinister. The man in the woods had been real. And worse, he had been right there, inches away from them, listening, waiting. And if Chris hadn't woken up when he did, he didn't want to think about it. Neither did the others, and they never went camping again.